Welcome back to another episode. Today I've got one of the most important tips I can give any angler out there. I can honestly say that this is one thing that has elevated my career to the next level and been so important in the success that I've had over the years. And it's a pretty simple tip. It's really one that goes overlooked, and I don't think people realize the importance in it. And specifically what I'm referencing is to pay extreme attention to where you're getting your bites when you're on the water. And specifically to make the exact same cast that you made several times after catching a fish on that first cast. So as an example, I can tell you in the North Country here, we fish a lot of milfoil and just a lot of emergent weeds. And I cannot tell you how many times I've had instances where you will go down, a row of milfoil, flip, nothing, you get a bite. And then you throw back into the exact same hole that you just caught a fish out of, and you'll get another bite, and another bite, and another bite. It is unbelievable to me how tightly grouped up fish can get in a milfoil flat. And, if you went along that same strip of milfoil, pitching every 10 feet, you could very easily miss that school of fish that is sitting in that tightly grouped grass flat. And that was kind of my first eye-opening experience as to how important it is to know where you got your bite from. And, in that case, I'm talking, if I did not flip within a 1 foot diameter area, I would not get a bite. I could flip all around it and I wouldn't get a bite. But if I flipped right in that 1 foot circle, I would get a bite. And I've had that happen so many times. And that's just with grass. I mean, it happens a lot in grass. I feel like you would think that, sure, they might be more grouped up in grass and they're harder to find, but once you find them, they're in a smaller area. But it's everywhere. Everywhere I go, I have the same scenario where you might catch a fish just going down the bank, and if you can make that same cast again, there's a very good likelihood that you'll catch a second or third or fourth fish. And I'm not talking about coming up to the same, pulling up to a spot and fishing it necessarily, from a different angle, throwing to the same log. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, when you find something that is submerged and, whether it's a boulder or a log or whatever the fish is holding on, when you realize the cast that got that fish to bite, you better duplicate it multiple times. For whatever reason, you could pull up to a log, or that rock and fish it from a different direction and not get bit, ever. I mean, you have to make the right cast. A lot of times the fish are positioned by current, if there's current in the water. And that could be both natural current, if it's a river-based body of water, or wind current. Sometimes you just have pieces of structure that's set up in a manner where you can't expose your bait to those fish if you're coming from a certain direction. I've seen that fishing the Ozark Lakes, where I was fishing a giant boulder, and I had to make a cast from a certain direction to be able to get my bait to present over the rock the right way, because the rock was actually like indented in and those fish were underneath the rock. So if I made the right cast, I could get my bait to come under the rock. If I fished the boulder from any other direction, my bait would hit the rock and come up and over, and for whatever reason, those fish did not want to come out from underneath that rock. And this happens all the time. It's so important just to realize exactly where the boat is, where your cast was made, so that you can duplicate those casts. I just really can't stress that enough. It amazes me how often I see people fishing who catch a fish and they just keep going. They don't really work that area. There's a reason that you caught a fish in that on that cast. There's a reason that fish is holding there, and generally there's going to be more than one fish in a spot, is my opinion. I mean, yes, you can get kind of single roaming fish, but if you've got a good piece of structure holding a fish there, there's a reason that fish is there, and there's probably more than one fish that's utilizing that piece of structure. So you know, it's just one of those things. Definitely make note of where you're at. I mean, I'll on my Lowrance unit, I can make notes that state, you know, boat was pointing towards a tree or pointing towards a dock, or, you know, some sort of object that I can line my boat up with, and then I'll make a note as to where, you know, what angle I was casting from the front of the boat. So if I was roughly 30 degrees off the nose of the boat, I'll make a note of that. So when I pull up on my waypoint, I know exactly the direction that the boat should be pointing, and I know exactly the direction that my cast should be. And, you know, I can make notes of all of that in my Lowrance unit, pull it up when I pull up on my waypoint, and it gives me a really good starting spot to fish that piece of structure that I'm fishing. But it really is, in my opinion, one of the most important tips that I can give somebody who is a tournament angler and wants to you know, really excel at this level, or at, you know, any level, is to make sure that they're fishing each spot thoroughly and that they know the cast that's going to generate the fish. Because there's a lot of times you'll hear people talk about, you know, they knew the cast and they made the cast, and there'd be 20 other guys fishing the same spot throughout the day, and they don't catch anything because they didn't know the right cast. So, you know, if you can figure out that cast, you're light years ahead of other people who are trying to fish that spot, and you'll be the one that capitalizes and do well overall in that tournament. So make sure you do it, guys. Don't catch a fish and move on. Fish the area thoroughly, realize the cast that caught that fish, and duplicate it. So that's my tip for you. I guarantee you, if you pay more attention to where you're getting fish to bite on what specific cast, that you will increase the number of bites that you get throughout the day, and just be more successful on the water. So if you like this tip, make sure you subscribe to the channel, push the like button, share it on your social media pages, and leave me a comment if there's something that you want me to talk about. But I'm telling you guys, go out and do this. It'll make you a better fisherman.